Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Steffen. I'm a PhD student at the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research and Stockholm University. And it's a great pleasure for me today to open this very exciting session on climate change and fertility, and to have the opportunity to present a study that is collaborated work together with Erich Striessnig, Rita Testa, Alessandra Trimarchi, and Natalie Nitsche. And we are examining in our study the reciprocal relationship between environmental concerns as an indicator for climate change concerns and fertility behavior in Germany. As we could learn already from this conference, and as we knew from the previous research, demographers have increasingly studied the effect that changing environments, climate change may take with regards to migration, mortality, or also fertility. To our understanding, there are two fields in the research of climate change on fertility. One of them focuses on reproductive health outcomes, rather in the low-income settings, and the other one looks at rather fertility intentions when it comes to high-income countries. There are even fewer studies on the reverse association between fertility, so parental status, and climate change concerns. This may be due to data restrictions. We learned in the keynote that well, there are some challenges, of course, also when it comes to the fluctuation of concerns that may depend very much on the period and on the context. But we want to contribute to this literature by looking at both sides of, both directions of this question. First, to which extent may environmental concerns affect actually the transition into parenthood? And second, what about the reverse association? Do environmental concerns change once one is a parent? Regarding the theoretical background, there are some theories in demography addressing ideational factors in order to explain fertility behavior, but like the political economy perspective, for instance, or the second demographic transition, but none of them really specifically addresses environmental concerns as a determinant for childbearing. However, one might argue that individuals who are concerned about the environment rather refrain from entering parenthood since they wish their children to grow up and be raised in a well, clean and nice environment, etc. So our first hypothesis would be that environmental concerns, individuals are less likely to enter parenthood, and if they decide to have a child, they may tend to postpone it. The other way around, when it comes to parenthood on environmental concerns, that's theoretically based on the concepts of the psychological distance and the legacy hypothesis, both of which suggest that once one is a parent and once one is more close to this environmental state, because you're interested in the environment that your children will live in, then that increases actually the environmental concerns in general. So environmental concerns are expected to be higher among parents than among non-parents. We use the German socioeconomic panel study as a data for our analysis. This is a longitudinal, annually conducted survey on a representative sample in Germany with up to 30,000 individuals every year. And the great advantage of this data set is that environmental concerns have been measured annually in the same way since 1984, so we have a very nice and long data series that we can use. And environmental concerns have been collected in a categorized way, so there are three groups that we can observe. These are no concerns, some concerns, and big concerns. For our analysis, however, we combine the no and the some concerns together, because also there are not so many observations in the no concerns group. So we rather focus on the other extreme. This is big environmental concerns. The fertility information is based on monthly observation or monthly information. And we include a set of covariates such as gender, education, civil status, region, etc. We divide our first part of the research question into three different samples. So when it comes to environmental concerns on fertility, we first look at the prospective power that environmental concerns may take. So this is the sample A1A. So we take environmental concerns from younger ages, at age 20 around, and look whether this has a prospective power for the parental status by age 40. So is there, just as a first idea, is there an association or not? But of course also we look at the fertility risks over time. And additionally, the third approach with regards to that part of the research question, we run the same event history analysis, so the piecewise constant hazard models for parents only. So that gives us an idea whether environmental concerns relate to the timing of childbearing. The second part of the research question relates to the environmental trajectories. And again, we apply their fixed effects logistic regression models, since the environment concerns are binary coded, according to parental status. So very descriptively here, how does the development look like? Here we see the proportion of individuals who report big environmental concerns over age, that's the x-axis, and stratified by birth cohorts. And you can see here, for instance, that the red line relates to birth cohorts from before 1917, so these are the older birth cohorts, and they share big environmental concerns to a higher proportion in the early 20s. That proportion decreases over age, and then increases again in the most recent observations, most likely due to the climate change debate, of course. Contrary to that, if we look at the violet line, that represents the younger cohorts from 1980 or later, and there's not so much going on compared to the other cohorts. The proportion is relatively low, and also quite constant throughout the younger ages. And then again, in the most recent observation, the proportion increases also, again, most likely based on the climate change debate. So when it comes to our results, so this is the findings, the main findings from the first part of the fertility analysis. So this prospective association, what we see here is the predictive margins on first of environmental concerns on first childbirth, stratified by gender, and you can see here if you compare the blue lines, these relate to females, the red lines relate to males. There's actually not so much going on, so there's not so much of a difference whether individuals share big environmental concerns or not. So this prospective power seems to be rather low. When we look at the fertility risk over time, so from the event history analysis, we can see here again at the first glance on the left side of the slide, again that there's not so much going on. Statistic uncertainty is relatively large, so also the tendency of the males to have a negative association cannot be certain. However, if we look at cohort stratification on the right side of this slide, then we do see a negative association among the older cohorts. So individuals who were born before 1970, if they report big environmental concerns, they are less likely over time to get a first child. If we run this analysis again on parents only, we see negative associations throughout all the samples. So this strongly suggests that environmental concerns are negatively linked with the timing of fertility among the parents, at least. And as a last graph of the results that relate to the reversed association. So here, environmental concerns are the outcome, or the proportion to report bigger environmental concerns. Then again, we do not see so much of a difference. The early childbearers, the blue line, that are younger than 25 at their first childbirth, do not distinguish or do not differ so much from the individuals who remain childless by age 40. These are the red lines. Yeah, so there's not so much going on. So the key finding of our analysis is that environmental concerns are negatively associated with childbearing among older birth cohorts and also among parents. So that's relatively clear from our models. The other findings are relatively small in magnitude, so there does not seem to be so much of an association. But what I wanted to stress here as a conclusion, so if we already see the negative effects for at least some subgroups when it comes to environmental concerns that are very, very depending on the time period, of course, this may have even larger effects when it comes to climate change in the future, because climate change, of course, is a permanent risk, and this may even reveal stronger effects on fertility than we have shown. But we have a first indicator, and this is what we wanted to provide. Okay, that's all what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very looking forward to the upcoming discussion.